Uh, to the young people of Saudi Arabia and to His Excellency the Minister Bandar al-Koriev and to the Vice Minister Khalid al-Mudaifer and to all the ministers present here from around the world, it is indeed an honor to be here for the second time in 1 year now, one trip around the sun, to talk about the importance of how I see the kingdom and its role in maintaining global energy stability, world peace, and the only way that we're ever going to be able to revolutionize the supply chain. I have some slides. I hope they work. We'll give it a try. I want to remind you that last year, we started by saying that we all live on this little ball of iron and silica hurtling through space. We are rotating on our axis at over 1,000 miles an hour, all of us together. But you know, our entire solar system is actually going around the galaxy, the Milky Way, at over 500,000 miles an hour. And this is important to remember that one galactic year for our galaxy to go around the Milky Way is 230 million years. And what I'm talking about is the immensity of the universe, the scale of our Creator, and how small we are as human beings, and how we all have to learn to live together on this small planet. Last year, I mentioned Carl Sagan. He said, look at that blue dot, that's here, that's home, that's us. All of it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being, whoever was, lived out their lives on this small blue dot. In the last year, we've seen the world erupt in war. We've seen a civilian population bombed without justification. We have to remember that we're all on this planet together. We need to understand each other better. We need to prevent a slide into a nuclear conflict. And at the same time, we completely and utterly rely on the stability of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for energy security. I had the opportunity to go to Hobart last year to the number 7 Prosperity well, the first oil well discovered in this kingdom. That hydrocarbon from 1936 to 1938 built the entire modern world. London, New York, Chicago, all came from the oil developed by Saudi Aramco. And now we're lecturing third world developing countries about global warming gas. We have 7 or 8 billion people we have to feed. We're not going to get there in a clean and sustainable way without a revolution of the supply chain. But our supply chain was integrated. In the last 10 or 20 years, we had an integrated world supply chain. It was a just-in-time supply chain, and now it's becoming a just-in-case supply chain in a troubled world. I just want to show you from the National Aeronautics and Space Administration the recent history of humanity in relation to the temperature of the world. When 1900 came, we were creeping up on World War I. The world was quite cool in terms of temperature. The First World War happened, and you can see we stayed inside that first circle. Then came the Depression, not much changed in the United States. Then came World War II, that took a lot of energy to have a war like that. And then the baby boomers. I was born in 1950, I'm 36 years old for the second time. So now we're getting into the early 1970s, and you can see the world is still doing okay. And then we started developing China. And as China awoke with 1.4 billion people, with the greatest economic growth in the history of the world, we started generating a lot of global warming gas. And today, when we look, it is really undeniable that the world is getting warmer. One can debate whether this is done by anthropomorphic forces or whether it's being done by solar flares or some other cause, but we can't afford to take the risk that it's human beings that are warming the world. We're just not in a position to risk it. So if that continues, we're going to see a lot more pressures on the world economy. So the global energy crisis has dramatically increased since I was here last year, 1 year ago. And so war, instability, human beings not understanding each other, a multipolar world all of a sudden that is much less stable, places the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in a central, critical position to maintain world peace. Most economies around the world are facing a deepening energy crisis. We have global supply chain disruptions. Most people don't even understand what a supply chain is. Everything we touch, we either grew it agriculturally or we mined it. And oil and gas is indeed a form of mining, and that's why the kingdom understands that petroleum was a gift of Allah. It's a society that generated wealth for the world from developing a natural resource that was a blessing from our Creator. And now we have geopolitical turmoil, and we have a as yet unrealized energy transition to get away from carbon-intensive sources. We cannot engender that transition. We have no hope of engendering that transition without the stability of the energy provided by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So you can throw out any number you want, but all of the power grids are increasingly unreliable. The American electrical grid is over 100 years old. If everybody plugged in an electric car at 5 p.m., after they come home, the whole grid would just die. And so we're talking about trillions of dollars in annual investment if you're going to dream about getting to carbon zero. Trillions of dollars. The energy shortage, copper alone could completely disrupt the whole idea of an energy transition. Achieving zero emissions by 2050, we're going to need an enormous ramp up in copper production. Those of us that are in the industry are really wondering how we're even going to find the copper metal to do this. We have to mine as much metal in the next 20 years as humanity has mined in human history. We definitely need to start talking to each other. We definitely need to find the capital, and we're very grateful for the support of the kingdom to finally create this central forum for the mining industry. In 1 year, the Future Mineral Forum has become the world's leading forum for mining. And in 1 more year, it's going to be really crazy. We now have BHP, we now have Rio Tinto here, we have Alcoa, we have all the major mining companies here. 1 or 2 more years, everybody will understand that not only does Saudi Arabia have a unique history of developing the blessings from our Creator, but Saudi Arabia is in the central position to help change the world. So, alhamdulillah, we've had oil and gas for the last, it was 1936, 1938, the prosperity number 7 well near Hobart. But when you talk about wind and solar energy, they're between 7 times and 37 times more copper intensive per unit of energy generated. So this is insanely metals intensive if you want an energy transition. If we just look at the relative size of the oil industry, the oil and gas industry spills more money than the mining industry makes. Mining is tiny. Look at the copper industry in relation to the oil industry. Look at the aluminum industry in relation to the oil industry. And when you look at nickel, copper, and some of those rarer metals, it's like trying to get the contents of the Hoover Dam through a garden hose. We need these critical raw materials, but they're rare. They need to be found, and they need to be responsibly developed. So according to His Excellency Bandar Al-Khurayef, the Minister of Industry and Mineral Resources, they're saying there's $1.3 trillion of resource in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I personally believe that's ludicrously conservative. Only Allah knows what is sitting underneath the sands and rocks of Saudi Arabia. Allah was so kind to provide the oil first, but now that the kingdom is going to look at its own endowment, it's obvious that this old, cold craton is enormously endowed in mineral potential. And of course, the definition of what is ore is rock that can be mined at a profit, is dependent on the stability of the government, the vision of the young people in the country, the infrastructure, the taxation, the stability, and so for all the other ministers from around the world in Africa and the Middle East. They should look to Saudi Arabia as the visionary country to show how to do it right between a host government and the developers of this resource. His Excellency Khalid al-Mudaifer, the Vice Minister, says that the kingdom wants to reduce mineral imports by 65% as the kingdom builds electric cars, for example, or develops biotechnology or a tourism industry. Everything you do, everything you touch, we either grew it agriculturally or we have to mine it. A lot of people don't remember that. Maybe that chair you're sitting on is made out of wood. It was originally a tree. But that plastic bottle, that's mining. That water you're drinking came from mining. And the very development of the hydrocarbon is dependent on mining. I'm so happy today to announce that in only 1 year, we've reached a 50-50 agreement with Ma'aden. We have some technology we'd like to explain to our young brothers and sisters in Saudi Arabia that was developed with the largesse of the French government. With 21 years of development, we have some proprietary technology that will enable us to separate the haystack from the needle, because we're in a hurry. We need to quickly survey very large amounts of ground in Saudi Arabia and look at the areas that are electrically conductive, because all of the metals we want, gold or silver, are electrically conductive. Nickel, copper, cobalt, electrically conductive. So today, we've announced the formation of a joint venture, bringing a technology I would like to explain to you. First, we're going to talk about how you find metals, and then we're going to give you an example about how Ivanhoe Mines has developed metals in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So this is the technology.
At Ivanhoe Electric,
please.
We merge the power of technology with the world-class team of mineral explorers to bring the world the metals we need the most. Copper, nickel, gold, and silver are crucial for the green revolution. But finding them is getting more and more difficult since the mineral deposits closest to the Earth's surface have already been discovered and mined. We have to look deeper and go into harsher terrains. Ivanhoe Electric's Typhoon system is a proprietary exploration surveying technology that injects extremely high-powered electrical currents deep underground to illuminate the distribution of chargeable and conductive materials such as metallic minerals or fluids. This means that Typhoon's high-powered currents can detect water, oil, copper, gold, and silver. Typhoon is able to survey larger areas more rapidly and to greater depths, all while collecting cleaner data compared to conventional systems. At our Tintic copper, gold, and silver project in Utah, we carried out one of the world's largest 3D induced polarization surveys using Typhoon, covering over 100 cubic kilometers of rock and penetrating to depths of up to 1.5 kilometers. But the data obtained from Typhoon is nothing if you don't have sophisticated software to convert it into accurate 3D visualizations of what Typhoon measures underground. Our computational geosciences software rapidly converts high volumes of raw data from Typhoon into 3D models of underground geology and into targets for follow-up exploration drilling. The huge amounts of data gathered with Typhoon, combined with the cutting-edge computational geosciences software, allows us to quickly explore very large areas to very great depth at a fraction of the cost of conventional methods. Our exploration technologies are proprietary to us and are key tools that we leverage as we explore for green metals on our mineral properties in the United States and internationally.
So, I don't know if you could hear that, but what this technology is doing is taking 20-kilometer long wires, putting the two ends into the earth, and injecting bolts of electromagnetic energy at the output of a nuclear power plant. If there's copper or gold or minerals, it lights up like a Christmas tree, and we can see it non-invasively without drilling. We also see water, and I believe water will become one of the most valuable commodities of all to human beings, because water is life itself. Water is the color of the Saudi flag, the oasis. Water is life. And so while we are surveying for metals, we will also be surveying the kingdom for water. And so we're very happy to team up with Ma'aden. We're happy to be looking at Ma'aden's historical lands, and then together we will look across the kingdom. And today we announced that we will work on a minimum of 48,500 square kilometers together. So this exploration technology entails Typhoon, the transmitter, and computational geosciences, the artificial intelligence software that takes terabits of data and turns it into clear three-dimensional imagery. That will enable us to find the electric metals, and of course, we also need energy storage. And Saudi Arabia is very rich in vanadium metal, which we use for grid-scale batteries. All of the heavy crude oil in Saudi Arabia that is burned is very rich in vanadium, and so that's another blessing that the kingdom has for grid-scale electrical storage. In Santa Cruz, Arizona, we're using the exact same technology to look at deep copper under several hundred meters of gravel cover, and this duplicates the conditions in Saudi Arabia. The sand cover over your geology is very similar to what we're doing in Arizona, where we're developing the second largest undeveloped copper mine in America. Amazingly, this project in Arizona is only 5 miles west of Lucid Automobile's electric car factory, which was financed by the PIF. And so the new CEO at Modena is named Robert. That happens to be my name. And where we're developing copper in Arizona is only 5 miles away from the PIF's electric car factory. That proves that we're all standing here or sitting here by the grace of Allah, because you couldn't make up this sort of coincidence. Now, Ivanhoe Mines has been in discussion with the kingdom as an example of how one can go to a great endowed area and where the kingdom can help developing nations. There's 90 million young people in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The median age is only 18.5 years of age. We're employing young Congolese women and men, and we came here because if we came from another planet, it's the Congo that has the richest endowment of copper in the world. In fact, for copper, Katanga province in the Democratic Republic of the Congo is the same as Saudi Arabia is to crude oil. So this is a picture of the Kamoa-Kakula mining complex, and I'd like to give you an idea of the history of this complex, because once you find a mine, you still have to build it. So Ivanhoe Mines is working at Kamoa-Kakula in the Congo, developing a very rich zinc mine in the Congo, and developing a giant precious metals mine in South Africa. I had the pleasure of seeing His Excellency Gwenda Matashi here from South Africa. This is, in fact, the largest precious metals mine in the world under development. Let's have a look then, looking from right to left as in Arabic. First, you have to explore. First, you have to go into the desert and find something. This is not easy. And once you've made a discovery, you have a development stage mine like Kapushi, or you're actually sinking shafts and doing development like we're doing at our platinum, palladium, gold, nickel, and copper project. And then finally, you have production growth. Given that I'm 36 years old for the second time, mining is an industry that is really looking at the next generation and the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. And we are highly confident that this piece of land that was given by the Creator to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is as highly endowed in minerals as any location in the world. Here's a little film about how it took only 27 years to put the Kamoa-Kakula mine from discovery in production. I hope you enjoy it to give you an idea of what it's really like to be in the mining business. I just want to speak from the heart that the Islamic principles that come from the land of the custodian of the holy places is what we need to go to African countries. It's what we need to go to Islamic countries all over the world and find a better way to develop mining. As Marna said this morning, we need to employ women. We need to think about the way we relate with local communities, and we need to reinvent the enterprise, top to bottom. And every hand phone is an NGO. The industry is constantly under scrutiny. We need to have a financial system that rewards producers of copper that do clean copper at a higher price. Just like you're familiar with sweet and sour crude, we need to see differential pricing in metals. We have to be able to get higher pricing for our metals when they're produced in a green, sustainable way and supportive of local communities. My dream is that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia helps revolutionize mining throughout the developing nations. When you go to Africa, you'll find that the United States is present only by its absence. And in the Kamoa-Kakula mine, we had an enormous benefit from our Chinese partners. Zijin and CITIC, two major Chinese companies, made sure that the Chinese supply chain supported our development throughout the COVID period. I'm very happy to see that President Xi came to Saudi Arabia and that he recently said it's a bad idea for people to threaten nuclear war. I think China, the United States, these big groups that are in conflict desperately need Saudi Arabia to keep everybody calm and to find a way for the world to cooperate, especially the developing world, especially South Africa, especially the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or His Excellency, the Minister from Guinea, which is so well endowed in iron ore and bauxite, for example. So this forum will definitely become the leading forum for the development of metallic minerals and its relationship to the revolutionary nature of the electrification of the automobile. This forum will forever, without doubt, be the place where anybody in the mining industry has to come, and for that, I'm indebted to the Vice Minister and the Minister himself and the support of this enlightened, young, and dynamic government. And I thank you for the opportunity and honor again to address you.